Welcome to the Scoop Order. It is Monday. We've got some transfer portal news. Wiltrell Harrison is another Buckeye in the portal. I don't know if we're going to have a running back left. And if you guys want to play running back, head into the Woody Hayes and get ready to practice. It's going to be really thin for the Cotton Bowl, but we're going to see what we can do. We've got a tackle that is in the portal that Ohio State is showing some interest in. We're going to break that down. Could Dylan Rayola and Kyle McCord both be going to Nebraska to compete? Because that would be pretty awesome. There's been a late flip potentially where Dylan Rayola could end up a Nebraska Cornhusker. So looks like that's where Kyle's going to go. So maybe that's not going to change, but I don't know. But it's going to be wild. And we're going to take all your questions. As always, we appreciate you guys. Thank you guys for tuning in and kicking it with us each and every night. Fantastic show lined up for you tonight. We got some film to break down. We're going to take your questions. Special shout out to Austin Spears. Thank you so much. He broke the record for the largest super chat. Gave $400. Every super chat we receive this month, along with every Scoop Ultra membership, is going right into our Pay It Forward fund, where we basically give memberships to BuckeyeScoop.com to people that are active military. It's been a fantastic program. We've had the benefit of getting to know a lot of these guys. It's been really helpful for us, and this is something we can do to give back, and you guys can do to give back. When people are deployed and they miss their Ohio State Buckeyes, they can get their fix, so they can kick it with us on BuckeyeScoop.com. Nevada, a lot to break down today. Another Buckeye in the transfer portal, Wiltrell Harrison. He's a kid that walked on from Massillon, so I don't think he'll be a huge loss. He wants to go play somewhere, which I totally understand. And then there's a tackle, Fernando Carmona, San Jose State kid, a big kid, kind of a raw kid. He was, I believe, honorable mention All Mountain West, but he's 6'5", 320. We get open for business sign. I think especially on the interior line, I think that he potentially be a guard for us. But your thoughts on the transfer portal thus far, and potentially Emeka. There's some smoke that Emeka Egbuka could be coming back. I don't really believe that, but your thoughts on all that?
Yeah, I was ready for this to be kind of a sleepy Monday and be like, oh, it's a Monday. I don't really know what we're going to talk about. There's not much going on. And then all of a sudden it's like, bang, transfer, bang, possible name coming in, bang. I'm telling you, the Emeka thing, I got the helping technician called me about 25 minutes ago and goes, I spoke to Emeka, and Emeka's talking about next year, like next year as in I'm going to be back for next year type of stuff. So he told me to kind of keep an eye on that one right there. So the Emeka thing is definitely one that I'm going to be monitoring closely. I think a lot of these Ohio State players just did not get the kind of grades that they were hoping to get. And I think that could drive some of them back to, Ohio State, play it, run it back one more year, play it again. But got that from the helping technician about 25 minutes ago. And he was adamant that Emeka was talking that way. So that certainly got my attention for sure. So Emeka on watch. We'll keep an eye on that. We'll see how that one kind of goes. Look, Carmona is an interesting, player to San Jose State. Was a basketball player, I believe. Just kind of recent to football. Played some tight end. Didn't he play tight end some in high school or something like that? So
Exclusively.
Yeah, you're like the expert on moving tight ends to offensive tackle there. You were part of the Reed Fragel experiment, so maybe you can talk about that. But it'll be interesting because there seems to be mutual interest in there. You see him as a guard. You would certainly know more than I. To me, that feels like a tackle. That feels like a right tackle to me. But what do I know? I didn't see Jimmy Simmons at left tackle this year. So what the heck do I know about this stuff? But you're the resident expert on that. What do you think about tight ends moving to tackle and how people make that transition?
I think it depends on the body type and the disposition. Honestly, it's going to be a kid that embraces it. This is his a lot of his tape is he's playing basketball, and he's this is kind of his first year was like 2019. He never played football until his junior year, so he's kind of a late bloomer. He's a guy that if Greg Studwara would have recruited, people would have panned him and said he's terrible. But now that he's gone somewhere and played, I think he's got a chance. I know that Ohio State is looking for more interior guys than tackles, so that's kind of why I was hedging it and saying he could be a guard because he's about 6'4.5". But I think that it's not one of those binary things where it's like, oh, any guy that's a tight end who could run decently well would make a great tackle. Like, you really got to get into the kid and see if he's really going to embrace it or not embrace it. I think it's always, unless you're like a hyper athlete, like a guy like Vernon Davis or a guy that can run exceptional, like Jeremy Ruckert could not have ever transitioned to tackle. He's too narrow. His skill set was more blocking and finesse than it was physicality. But some of these kids that are they're bigger tight ends, and they might be in the modern spread offense a slower tight end. It makes perfect sense to move to tackle. Like we did it with Reed Fragel. In Jim Tressel's offense, where we're blocking Power and Dave every single play, like he's a great guy at the point. But when you get to Urban's offense and it's spread, and you ask the tight end to win option routes in space, and you ask him to do a lot of stuff in space, like that's more of a Jeff Hireman, Nick Vanette type of spot. Again, there were some square pegs and round holes that they had Zach Bourne there for a minute, and he just wasn't a fit. I mean, he was a traditional fullback, a position that's basically been erased from football. And then they moved him to linebacker, obviously, where he had more success. But when you have like a supersized tight end, like those guys don't really fit the role of a spread offense tight end that needs to be able to split out and win an option route versus a slot corner or a Sam linebacker that they walk out over the point. I think that this kid's interesting because he's a big kid. He's 6'5", 320. If you just look at just physically, he doesn't look ultra fit. Like he looks like he has a little bit of a spare tire. So I think that Mickey could work that off of him. But we're open for business right now. And again, I think that guys like this are always kind of interesting projections. Though he was like honorable mention All Mountain West, which is doesn't really blow my skirt up, so to speak, because again, it's the Mountain West, and if you're good, you should be All Mountain West at a minimum, because you're not in the SEC, you're not in the Big Ten. But he's a good athlete. I mean, he's a guy that was a basketball player, and you like the feet, but does he have the disposition to come compete at Ohio State? Because that's something that a lot of kids don't have the chin for it. Like they don't want to. They're worried about someone coming in the portal. They're worried about who they recruiting, and when you're here, like you're going to compete. And Kyle McCord didn't want to compete. That's why he took off. Kyle McCord, very nice kid, teammates like him and everything, but he wanted to be ordained as the starter. And at Ohio State, I don't know. Short of like a guy like Marvin Harrison, who's like a generational talent, you can't really ordain anybody. Like, I mean, I knew when I played at Ohio State, they were trying to bring in a new recruit every single year to take my job, like every single year. And again, with the portal, there can be a guy that coming in older than you that could take your job or cut you in line. And you just gotta be on point. You gotta beat the guy out. And if you get beat out, then God bless him. And maybe it's time to look elsewhere, like a lot of these kids are doing. But I like this kid. I like that we're kind of digging through the portal and trying to find stuff. But like top tier linemen are really expensive. And that's something that I think that's why we're going after guys from San Jose State as opposed to other schools. But like I think you can't get enough tall, angular bodies that can play tackle or play guard in a pitch. Because I'm more worried about our guard spot than I am tackle. But if we bump Josh Fryer in, then this kid might be our right tackle. Who knows? What are your thoughts on the O-line recruiting in Nevada?
Well, it's a little bit of a crapshoot just because again, I take these minority positions, but I don't hate the guys in our room. You know what I'm saying? I'm not down on Tigra. I'm not down on George Patrick. I'm not down on Luke Montgomery. I think we've got guys that can play. But, look, last year when we got Jimmy Simmons was a big question mark, kind of came in, and Jimmy was getting whipped pretty hard by a lot of people. Jimmy Simmons went the entire year, did not give up a sack in an offense that liked to pass and with a quarterback that wasn't exactly the most mobile guy in the world back there. So, all in all, was that a good pickup? Yeah, that was a really good pickup because Jimmy's going to be here, at least one more year, if not 2 more years. You're going to get some good play out of him. And he came out of San Diego State, so not exactly, a powerhouse. So I can see why they would go back there, look for somebody out of San Jose State, see if they can, hit gold again, get somebody that can play. And look, I'm okay with what we have. I think we're going to be returning the core of a really good line next year. I think Donnie's coming back. So you've got Jimmy, Donnie, Carson, Josh Fryer at right guard or right tackle, depending on who you got. I like Josh Fryer at right guard. I think he'd be a dominant right guard. But he held up really well at right tackle, too. So I think we've got the formation of a really good line. And, I think we can help the line out with a quarterback that's just slightly more mobile and an offensive scheme, a running scheme that's just slightly more creative. I think we do both those things, and this offensive line will start to look a lot better, and I think everybody will be more happy.
Yeah, I totally agree. Dave Jack, thanks for the 10. Appreciate you, my man. People seem to forget that years left as soon as Devin Brown committed, Devin Brown outperformed in all the scene. I don't know if that really happened, summer camp, etc. Elite 11, can't wait to see him shine on 12, 29, going to shock Buckeye Nation. I don't know if that is exactly why Quinn left. I don't think it is. But I think that Devin's got a real opportunity here. And again, like he's not Quinn. I mean, Quinn's he's light years ahead of where Devin is right now. They're the exact same age. Quinn, is in the playoffs and had a great year. Devin got beat out by Kyle, but Devin has a shot to really put himself on the map this game. I mean, he's got they've got a little workout tomorrow. Then they got 3 big practices coming up. Thursday, Friday, Saturday, where they're going to get after it pretty hard. And these guys are, again, there's a lot of guys with a lot to prove, and there's a lot of guys that, again, they went into Ryan Day's office and they said, "Oh, I want some money and I need NIL stuff and what's my package?" And unless you're like a stone cold dude, I mean, you better go show out like these next 3 practices. If you're some of these backup dudes that are asking for money and you're getting offered money from other schools, like I think it's it's time to show out. I mean, because they got some big days coming up. Nevada, what's at stake for Devin Brown this month? Because I think that he's got one of the biggest opportunities I've ever seen at Ohio State. In a weird way, it's kind of like when Justin Zwick was the quarterback at the Alamo Bowl and had a great game and we won and beat Oklahoma State like 31-7 or whatever it was. And it's kind of it was an opportunity to kind of erase the stench of that 04 season with a nice bowl win. But what's the opportunity that Devin has versus a really good Missouri team?
Well, first of all, I gotta, just because you open the door, and so I'm gonna walk on through the door. We're gonna talk just a couple of minutes on Quinn Ewers. I just want to talk about Quinn Ewers just for a couple of minutes because I've told part of the story before. We've talked about this thing. I'm not going to belabor it because he's not here. But here's what happened. Ryan Day wanted Quinn Ewers to come. People keep saying, "Oh, Quinn needed it for NIL." Ryan Day was recruiting Quinn hard to reclassify to come. He didn't know what he had with C.J. Stroud. He didn't know if C.J. Stroud was going to respond well to tough coaching. He talked him into coming. Quinn hits campus. As soon as he hits campus, you know what happens? Ohio State sends him home for contact tracing with COVID. Contact, not because he had COVID, but because he might have run into somebody who had COVID. So he goes back home for a week. Then he comes back. You know what happens when he gets here? Ryan Day doesn't talk to him. Ryan Day stops talking to Quinn Ewers. No communication. So Quinn Ewers is now sitting here going, the guy that was recruiting me hard, like I was like Jessica Alba in Into the Blue, is now treating me like I'm Nicole Auerbach at the Golden Corral buffet on a Sunday night, and there's no communication. And so Quinn is now just kind of like going, what in the world is going on? And it just kind of keeps going that way. And then they drag LaRue over Quinn Ewers on a road trip. They leave him home, and he's just like, what am I doing here? And that's what really happened. And so when people are like, "Oh, Quinn was this," dude, that is exactly what happened right there. But I digress. Now I'm going to move on to Devin Brown. Devin Brown has got just a golden opportunity. I mean, it's funny you brought the Alamo Bowl. I know because you played in that. You're great, just classic Ohio State game. But look, he's got a great Justin Zwick type of opportunity to kind of put a hammerlock on the job. I think he's putting a hammerlock on the job, but I think it's not just him. I think Lincoln playing well too is giving Day confidence that he's got the quarterback room in good hands, and that he doesn't need to go break the bank. He doesn't need to go empty the room to go after one of these guys in the portal. I think that they're nudging around. They're slow playing guys, but the better that Devin plays, the better that Lincoln plays, the more confident that Ryan's going to be like, something, let's just ride it out with our guys. There's no guarantee that what we have is better than what we have here, currently. I'll ride with my guys, ride or die. And look, Devin's going to have his first start of all time is going to be against Missouri in the Cotton Bowl. Now, let me remind you how important the Cotton Bowl is. The Cotton Bowl is so important to Ohio State that Parker Fleming got an $85,000 bonus for Ohio State making the Cotton Bowl. So next time you're sitting there and you're thinking about your life and you're kind of going, man, my life's kind of crappy or whatever. Oh, I'm not really sure about my life. Think about Parker Fleming got an $85,000. They walked in with a check for $85,000, one of those giant like Happy Gilmore oversized checks, and they handed
Oh
to
my
Parker
God.
Fleming for $85,000 for making the Cotton Bowl. So it's an important game, a very important game. And Parker Fleming thanks you for your contributions to the Cotton Bowl fund.
And make sure you give to the NIL fund along with your
Yeah.
drink more Ovaltine too while you're at it.
Oh my God.
God, it's so bad. I got another super chat. Chris S. Appreciate you, brother. Great show, guys. Have you heard the latest rumor saying Michigan logged in to Ohio State's database again during rivalry week during Harbaugh's suspension? I have not heard that, but that will not surprise me at all. Again, we don't exactly have like the sharpest tools in the shed over there sometimes. Nevada, have you heard that rumor?
I have not heard that rumor, so I don't want. Look, I always want to give you guys the straight stuff. We say we report the news, we don't manufacture the news. That would seemingly fall into the category of that's just too wild and wacky to even believe. So I'm going to go with I haven't heard that. I don't know anything about that, so I can neither confirm nor deny that really happened. That's a crazy one.
Well, I mean, but I mean, they are nuts. I mean, that would be. I mean, when you're under, you already got the Eye of Sauron on you, and you go do something like that. I mean, that'd be massive balls. Jeff Perry, thanks for the 5, brother. Appreciate you. Do you have an update on Henderson staying? Has he been practicing? Well, I don't have an official update. Again, like it's hard to be, oh, they're staying, they're not staying, because again, they don't have to declare until after the national championship game, which is like a month away. Like it's like an eternity. So these guys are like 4 weeks to decide and talk to agents and get feedback and what do I want to do. And like Mike Doss did it like the last day, walked up to the podium and whatever. So, again, we have great sources in the Woody that think that he is really considering staying. And again, the thing that changes everything, and again, I don't believe it just because it's a running back. He's the best running back in the country. The running back that just won the Doak Walker literally is at the transfer portal. So I don't know where he's going to end up. ETN looks like he's going to go to Georgia, but Trey comes back. He could be the bell cow next year. Now, does he want to be? Because again, like the biggest difference between modern college football and 4 year ago college football is that, if he comes back, he's going to get probably at least $1 million to stay, maybe 2. Again, there's some major corporations like Kroger that are stepping up and saying, hey, if Marvin wants to come back, we're going to write him a pretty big check, and he's going to be one of our brand endorsers or whatever. So, there's some equity in staying now where previously, like when you couldn't make any money, it was like either nothing or everything. So now it's kind of like, well, I could get like a nice chunk of cash and then I can get my signing bonus the next year. And, you in theory could be like, well, I'm going to be up another, 3, 4, 5 million or 8 million if you're Marvin. And then I'll get my 30 million the next year. So again, I think that it's fascinating to see who's stepping up. There's a private donor that offered Marvin a really substantial amount of money. Kroger offered him good money. It's different now. And again, I think like when you're a guy like Trey, like, hey, I mean, there's worse things that could happen than come back and win a bunch of awards and, go beat Michigan. Because I know a lot of these guys they're talking about the Michigan thing. I don't really buy that that's why they'd come back. I think that some of it's just, stringing people along. But like if you're a guy who isn't named Marvin Harrison, if you're a Mecca and this was kind of a lost season, you're your preseason All-American and you really didn't do anything all year, it might not hurt you to come back and be the number one guy for a year and be that dude. What are your thoughts, Nevada? I mean, again, Trey Henderson, of all the guys on the team, including Marvin, that I'd be shocked if they came back. Trey is the number one guy, but he's got a lot of smoke around him right now. What are your thoughts?
Well, to answer the question, yeah, he's around. I mean, he's around and participating and saying all the right things and doing all the right things and acting like a guy that's not only going to play in the bowl game, but is going to be here for next year. The question is, do we believe it? And is it going to follow through? And I think it's unknowable right now. I think Kirk and I are both in the camp of we just can't believe that's true. But in response to the question, no, he's around. He's around and doing everything like a guy that wants to be here for the bowl game, wants to be here beyond the bowl game. We'll just have to see if that's the way that he is come mid-January and if that kind of follows through. Now, you made a great point about NIL. I'm hearing that and NIL, they've kind of, like they've given this whole thing. And I don't want to start talking NIL because that'll be like the big downer to everybody. Everybody will flip off the thing and turn on like the Golden Girls or whatever else you get, Matlock or whatever else you guys are watching on YouTube. But like, I'm hearing that the foundation is getting back in the football game, and that the 1870 is not just, that it was going to be 1870 and the foundation was just football or basketball, and now they might be coming back and stuff. So there may be reinforcements coming on the NIL front, and so we can stop sucking at NIL. So I'm keeping my fingers crossed. Heard some very optimistic things this afternoon. I just have to see if they follow through with them, because that would be good news indeed.
Well, yeah, I mean, like my thing is like, again, people can say whatever they want about B Shot and whatever, but in Cardell, but like I went to their one event, and the amount of major mega money people that were at that event was stunning. And again, I was like, whoa, I was like, that guy's there and that guy's there. And I'm not going to name drop, but there were huge names in Columbus. And I was like, wow, that's pretty good. They're out here supporting this thing. And, I don't know what the other one's doing to raise money. I mean, I know what these guys did, and I know kind of the players that are behind them. And a lot of them are kind of in the shadows. They're not at the forefront because they don't really want to be, but they got some mega dudes. So it's going to be interesting. And again, if you just go look at their roster of who's on like the foundation's website, who they've given money to versus the other one, like it's not even close. Like, I mean, who's giving more money out? I mean, so again, like you can say whatever you want, but like, people lie and numbers don't. They got some real cash coming in there. And again, a lot of people are bringing up JJ Smith. I think JJ's going to be, he's all day Buckeye. Nevada, late word from our boy Whitfong. And Whitfong has never been worse at what he does for a living than this year. He's missed on more stuff ever. But he just put in a crystal ball a couple weeks before signing day that Dylan Rayola is going to go to Nebraska. Now, there were also crystal balls put in yesterday that Kyle McCord is going to Nebraska. I think that that's absolutely hilarious, and I think that they would deserve each other if they both went there. I don't think it's going to happen. I think if Dylan goes there, then Kyle's not going to go there, because, I mean, that would be like a steel cage match at the spring game between the dads and the kids, like to see who starts a quarterback. But what are your thoughts on potentially Dylan Rayola flipping, being in a quarterback room with Kyle McCord?
Well, we had this like 90 days ago, but this is absolutely fact. Dylan Rayola reached out to Ohio State and asked to get back in with Ohio State. And Ohio State said, thanks, but no thanks. That happened. Mm-hmm. We reported it. That happened. So this doesn't surprise. I mean, the Nebraska thing's a little weird just because of the McCord thing, but Rayola, decommitting from Georgia, dude, we had that. So like, I know that one happened. So that doesn't shock me at all. Why would McCord go to the same place with Rayola? Can't see that happening. He doesn't want to compete. He wants to be, ordained as the starting quarterback somewhere, and he's not going to go somewhere where he's got competition. I'm just telling you. So I think if Rayola really, if he really got Fong there, which really these days that could be the kiss of death, because Fong's been wrong at everything. And I like Steve. I think Steve's good at his job. I'm telling you, the recruiting guru business is dead. That is dead. And if you're out there going, I want to be a recruiting guru like Steve Wiltfong, that's a dead end. You might as well sell buggy whips or whatever else you're going to be doing, because that business is dead. And so he's trying his best to try to stay relevant with this stuff. So I would take it with a large grain of salt. But Rayola's been shopping. He's been wanting to get out of that Georgia commitment, and Nebraska's as good a place as any. So doesn't shock me.
Yeah, and also I think that Nebraska's got some serious money. There ain't nothing to do in Nebraska other than give money to Nebraska football. There ain't no other sports, there ain't no other teams. Like, Warren Buffett's there, the Oracle. So there's a lot of there's a lot of money there. And again, like if they're trying to make a splash, there's no bigger splash than Dylan Rayola. I mean, he's the number one, or he was the number one player in the country. He's kind of crestfallen a little bit since he went to Buford, but he's a legacy. I don't know if his dad wants to get into coaching, but his uncle's already on the staff. So there's going to be this like synergy of the Rayolas all going there and, whatever. But I mean, I think that there's a comfort level with Nebraska. And again, they've got Matt Rule. Matt Rule's an NFL coach, and he did a great job at Temple, and he did a great job at Baylor. And, he stunk at Carolina, but, he's a quarterback guy. So that doesn't hurt more so than Georgia, who's going to probably have a revolving door of coordinators during Dylan's time. So again, quarterback dad thing is crazy. It is always crazy. B B Clay all day. Appreciate you, my man. Thank you for the 5. Kirk, that extra year of development for Trey is worth millions on his initial contract, which is interesting considering a running back's longevity. Who knows? I agree. Like if he sticks around and can string together a healthy season, I think that'd be awesome. I think it'd be great for because again, I think his biggest knock is durability by far. It's not his talent, it's not his speed. It's can he make it through a season? And he's the kind of guy that if he plays a whole season, he'll win the Doak Walker. He'll be first team All American. He'll get a tree. Be a captain. But yeah, with the injuries he suffered, it's a lot like Jackson Smith and Jigba and Emeka the last years. Like they just left a lot of meat on the bone because they missed like 8 games each, and it's tough. What are your thoughts about it? Would an extra year help Trey's development towards the NFL?
No, like I said, I could argue that one either way. Obviously,
Yeah.
for a running back position, that's just so tough because of the number of hits and the durability, issues that he's already had. I do think it's interesting that Ohio State's been kind of bugging Chip's agent about coming back, even though he's in the portal, about coming back to Ohio State. Because if Trey's really staying, why would they be going after Chip? You know what I mean? So I think that's kind of maybe a tell that maybe the Trey thing maybe isn't where people might think it would be, but I don't know. So a lot of intrigue in the Ohio State running back room right now. But while we said goodbye to Chip Tram, we may be saying hello to him at some point in the future because Ohio State has definitely left the door wide open for a return. Do the old U-turn portal thing where you portal and then you turn back and kind of go back in there. So look, and frankly, for some of these guys, that may be the way that they max their value. Because you're always more willing to pay guys that have left and are coming back than somebody who's already in your room, and that might be the path for Chip.
No, I totally agree. I think it's something that would bear monitoring. I mean, again, Chip didn't make sense leaving at all unless Trey was like already locked in, but he's not. I mean, and he got a crystal ball to Kentucky today, so if Vince Morrow must be putting it down there and saying you're going to be the guy, but I don't know why he'd leave Ohio State when we're gonna have James Peoples coming for sure next year. The kid from Aquinas looks like he's gonna flip to Miami. So I mean, it's gonna be like kind of an empty room. Like it's gonna be like the Will Smith meme from Fresh Prince, where he's looking around and everything's gone. And again, I thought Chip could have been, if not the lead guy. Well, it's gonna be like Dallin and James Peoples if Trey doesn't come back. We're hosting a D tackle from Michigan State, another one. D Sunny just came in, so I'm going to switch and get him real quick. D Sunny, thanks for the 5. Appreciate you, brother. What could Ohio State administration do to take Ohio State to an even higher level? Is there anything that Ryan Day doesn't have? Well, if we had like a really, really good NIL program, I think it would be fantastic. I've heard what I got really deep in the weeds today. About what a program does that's a really, really, really sophisticated NIL operation. Basically, they're offering some kids like $300,000, and they pay them basically $25,000 a month if they are the starter, and if they are not the starter, they make $7,500 a month, and it's a 1-year deal. Goes from basically spring game to spring game, and I thought that was interesting. Because again, like if you're a kid who's 18, you're making 25 grand a month, like that's amazing, again, because you don't really have any expenses because you have a scholarship, you still get your scholarship check and everything else. So that's kind of the level like we need to get to be competitive. And that's not for a big dog. That's just for, a backup from a place like Georgia or Ohio State or Bama. And that's kind of what these kids are getting offered right now. I mean, they're getting offered some wild money now. And a lot of these guys haven't played at all. So, but there's some cachet to getting an Ohio State kid to come to your school, and some of these schools are just desperate for star power, so they'll pay whatever to get a kid in the fold. Nevada, what could Ohio State's administration do to take Ohio State to an even higher level? Well, they could also fix the stadium, make the stadium nicer, so that it's more of a fun experience. Because our stadium, God bless the Horseshoe, it needs a total renovation or a rebuild because it's just not very nice anymore. And is there anything that Ryan Day doesn't have, Nevada?
Well, he doesn't have an adult in the in the booth helping him call plays. But no, NIL. I mean, NIL is the elephant in the room. I mean, they've
Yeah.
got to fix the NIL and fix an NIL. I don't want to say the same things over and over again, but you can't have little kids that just graduated from Ohio State going out there to really rich guys trying to pitch them on giving money to Ohio State. That's not the way it works. Rich people run in packs just like everything else, and you need somebody from the pack. You need one of the lead alpha dogs that's a big money guy, and then he can hit those guys up for money. That's the way that this thing works. That's the way it's always worked. That's the way it works at the most successful schools. That's the way it works at Bama. That's the way it works at Oregon. If you're going to have the big money, don't have the kids going out there trying to pitch that in terms of doing it. And, it just doesn't work. That's what Ohio State needs the most. Look, if our stadium was Jerry World, would that be better? Yeah, but I think some of the older folks would just like have a heart attack. They like the primitiveness of Ohio Stadium, but it was a nice stadium in its day, and you can maintain some of the great tradition and culture and character of the stadium, but it's got to be upgraded, man. It needs an introduction into the 2030s and beyond, because it's way behind, in my opinion.
Yeah, I totally agree. Old Ben, thanks for the 10. Appreciate you, my man. I laugh a lot. I can't wrap my head around these donors paying tons of money to these players. Well, I mean, it's happened for a million years. It's just legal now, which is, it's actually kind of nice because we can do it and not lose guys as much. Normally, when a rich guy spends money, it's an investment. Not always. I mean, there's some rich guys that buy some really dumb stuff. Like, do they need a 15th car or, another private jet? Donating is just burning money away. Well, it depends. Again, it depends on what you like to spend your money on. I mean, there's rich guys that go to Vegas every week and they gamble and they lose, $500,000 or $1 million playing craps. Like, I mean, what's the difference? Or, they fill up the yacht and they go tool it around for a little bit and they burn $100,000 for the gas. Like, again, it's all kind of relative to what you have, what you do, whatever. Again, I think that it's, I mean, like some of these guys, when they donate to the university, like, I mean, there's guys I know they've given $5 million and like the university doesn't really treat them that great, and like, I just gave you a check for $5 million and you didn't really do much and you didn't really say thank you. And, I hear stories like that all the time about the university. And again, I'm not trying to bash it, but it's just like, dude, like if we were like just a little bit more courteous in development, I think you'd get a windfall, but we don't really get that. And I think that's what you need in NIL. Like, I think that, you have to come up with some sort of a group with one of these NIL deals where it's like the highest tier of guys. It's very quiet. It's very fun. You get some sort of access, whatever. And again, I don't know what level that is or what amount of money you got to give to do that, but that's how it really works. Like at these big schools, like Oregon and stuff, they've got like one guy that's given $1 billion and they can kind of go sign Walter Nolan or whoever they want, or SMU. But again, Nevada, when a rich guy spends his money as an investment, I mean, you know plenty of rich guys. Like, I mean, I don't necessarily agree with that.
This is confession time. This is Nevada confession time right now. Okay.
Nevada, oh God.
Okay, I'm just going to compare and contrast two things for you. Okay? At one point in time, Nevada gave a lot of money to Ohio State. Okay, gave a lot of money to Ohio State. One time, and the statute of limitations over this, but I'm going to admit to an NCAA violation. There was a player on Ohio State that didn't even have food. He was like didn't have enough money for food, was hungry, and I sent him a honey baked ham. I did. I sent him a honey baked ham. I signed on it from Uncle Woody. You know who you are. If you're listening, you know who you are.
Oh, my God. It wasn't me. It wasn't me. Make sure you say it was not me. I didn't even know who you were.
It was not Burt Carton, but I sent a player a ham, and he ate the ham, and I got more thank you from the player for the ham than I did from Ohio State for the substantial amount of money that they gave.
A 7-figure donation. Thank you.
No, they didn't say thank you, man. In fact, they treat you like dirt, man. So the moral of the story is sometimes it's better to give someone a ham than give someone $1 million.
Oh yeah,
that's Granny Nevada's little saying for the day. But yeah, I committed an NCAA. I'm admitting to the NCAA violation with a ham. I did it. I admit it.
You know that's going to cost us our media credential. You know that, right?
I hope it does. Please take our credential.
Forever. I'm not going to be able to go sit there and listen to a bunch of nothingness, infinite nothing.
Yes.
Eddie Phillips, thanks for the 10. Appreciate you, brother. Can't players like Trey and Marv get insurance in case of injury too? That's a great question. They can, But the caveat with those, if you Google these, they're called liability, disability policies for athletes. They're the biggest scam in all of insurance. In all of insurance, there's no. And again, I mean, I was in insurance for a long time. There's no bigger scam in the universe than disability insurance for college football players. I literally don't think there's ever been a single policy that's cashed. And there was a guy named Marquise Walker who was like a projected top 5-10 pick. He was at USC, got hurt. I think he had an ankle or a knee or something. And, like he all of the sudden tried to cash in his policy. Lloyd's of London written, so it's just good paper. And it never, they denied it. Because there's like you can do like a loss of value policy where it says, "Oh, I'm going to be a top 10 pick," and then I fall to the third round, and you're supposed to get X. But the problem with the disability insurance is that if you get it, the only way you can cash it is if you can't pass a single NFL physical. Like all 32 teams have to fail you. So basically, it's like you have to get like a car wreck or something, and your leg gets amputated, or something that's like that's so cataclysmic that you can't play football. And I mean, you guys watch a lot of football. Like, short of being like paralyzed, you can get healthy. You tear your Achilles, tear your ACL, rip your shoulder off. Like, I mean, they can sew it back together.
Burke, they had a guy die on the field, and they brought him back, and then he played, and he's still
the guy from the Bills. Yeah,
from the Bills. He literally had to play so you can literally die on the field and then come back and you can still play again. So like, I mean, right? He died. He died on the field.
Yeah, but I mean, like those policies are, I mean, they're not worth anything. I mean, guys get them, but they're just not, I mean, you could get like, $5 million, $10 million for the coverage, but you're just going to spend, it's usually, well, back in the day, it was like 10 grand per million. So it's probably 20 grand per million now, if I had to guess what the rates of insurance are. And it's just not, it's not worth paying for because you're never going to cash it. Like I said, unless you get into a car wreck or something, cataclysmic, but I mean, that could happen to anybody at any time. But great question, Eddie. Appreciate you. Sean Krutka, appreciate you, man. Thank you for the 5. Have you guys seen the photo of Harland going around? Scum and FSU fans are really trying to hype it up as a violation. Yeah, it was like some blurry photo of like Brian sitting in the stands at a game where Shaman Amadana was playing. They were saying it was like another contact for Hartline and he was breaking some rule or whatever. But I don't know. Like, I mean, here's the thing. I don't really know. I don't really care. Don't throw stones in a glass house. I don't know what could happen. I mean, obviously, it's not going to get anybody fired. I mean, Nevada, have you seen the photo? You probably haven't even seen it, have you?
No, I saw like there was the photo of like that Bigfoot that was kind of like walking through the woods or something like that.
Exactly.
And he was kind of staring, and then he kind of like his left arm was up and his kind of right arm or something like that. And you look at it, you're like, man, that's the best photo of the Bigfoot that we can get. It's like some blurry photo like that.
I mean, that's literally what it felt like. I'm like, are we seriously like in modern life where everybody's phone has a 4K camera? That's the best image they could get. Like, seriously, here's Brian Hartline. We're gonna bust him. Oh, it's from 8,000 feet away and it's all blurry. I'm like, and they like circled his head. Like it was like they're like depth diving for the Titanic, and they said, oh, there's the silverware down on the bottom of the ocean floor. It didn't make any sense. It was stupid. So I've seen it, but I don't know what to make of it, honestly. And if it's a violation, like nothing bad's going to happen. I mean, it's a secondary violation. Nobody cares. This kid's coming in, Derek Harmon, big boy, 6'5". It says 325, looks like he's about 340. Played at Michigan State. Again, we need depth, especially with, with Ty likely taking off, Mike Hall likely taking off. This is a kid that, we're hosting. Be interesting to see if we get him. Nevada, in the portal right now, what are the positions that you have the most amount of concern for, if you have any concern?
I mean, slight concern would be defensive line. Defensive line's probably the greatest position to need, in my opinion. I think everywhere else, well, unless you had some sort of stud portal quarterback, but I'm not worried about the quarterback. So I'm not really worried about the offensive line. I'm just kind of going position group by position group. I mean, it just depends on if Trey leaves, if Chip leaves, if everybody leaves, and all we've got in the running back room is Dallin Hayden and James Peoples, that might rise up the list really rapidly about concerns. But until I know those things, it's a little bit unknowable. But as you sit right now, I'd probably say defensive line.
Yeah, I mean, I think it's for me, it's D line because I think we're going to lose 2 to 3, maybe 4. I mean, if Jack decides to take off as a potential, third roundish type guy. Again, I just think a lot of these guys didn't get the grades they thought they'd get coming into the season. I think a lot of these guys are thinking they'd be first, second. A lot of these mock drafts had a lot of guys first, second, and season didn't go the way a lot of them wanted. I mean, and some of them, started slow, came on fast. Some of them started fast, faded. Tyleek started off like a rocket ship. I was like, there's no way he's not going to be a first team All American, and he didn't make a single All American team. So I think that the lines will be fine. Again, I think we need to get something out of Tywin Malone. Ty Hamilton will be back. He's like the one guy I'm pretty sure is going to be back. Is there anybody else that you're looking forward to seeing? Because I think that the portal is really interesting this time of year because it's always interesting to see the motives for as to why guys leave programs. Like Walter Nolan is hilarious to me because he got the bag at Texas A&M. He was the number 1 player in the country, defensive tackle. And his first 2 visits were Oregon and Ole Miss. And if there's 2 places that know how to pay guys, it's those 2. Nevada, if you're Ryan Day and you're evaluating these kids that are in the portal, how much do you kind of look at why they got into the portal? Did they get beat out? Are they better than the school they're at? How much would that matter to you? Jimmy Simmons was clearly better than San Diego State. He had a nice season this year as our left tackle. He's got a lot of room to grow. He's really athletic, but he's getting a lot stronger. Frankly, I think he needs to play a lot smarter. But what are your thoughts on that? How much do you analyze why guys get into the portal as opposed to that they're just in the portal?
I mean, to me, that's the whole game. I mean, it's like you got to look at the situation and try to determine what this whole thing's about. It's kind of like Justin Fields. When Justin Fields there, it's because he's playing behind Fromm, and Fromm's an experienced guy. They had some success with him, and so it was time for him to move on from a position where only one guy plays at a time. For Jimmy Simmons, like you said, he was better than the school. And that happens a lot. A lot of guys go to school, they develop, they play better. That's why you watch whenever they make these introductions on Monday Night Football, and you see all these offensive linemen from these obscure schools, and you're like, wow, man, why didn't Ohio State get that guy? And it's like every single player. So that's it. But on a high profile guy that kind of went and maybe kind of, I won't say flamed out, but kind of just was there. Man, that to me that'd be a flashing, yellow warning sign, big time, and I'd have to really get more information before I proceeded on something like that.
Yeah, I agree. I mean, I think that the thing people have to realize is that stars fade. When a guy's a 4-star coming out of college and then he redshirts for a year and doesn't do anything, he's not a 4-star anymore. Or if he sits 2 years, he's maybe some former 5-star. A lot of times it's a misevaluation. Sometimes these kids get attitude issues. Sometimes these kids just aren't very good. And I saw that with my own eyes. I saw some guys that would show up to Ohio State and a lot of hype. And then that first day, man, that hype gets blown. You get the doors blown off you. And all of a sudden you're like, ooh, I'm not in Kansas anymore. I'm not playing, Cleveland, Collinwood or some of these little schools anymore. I'm playing real guys now. And I remember Darius Hiley, who I love, was one of my favorite buddies my freshman year. I'll never forget, Soup was one of the most hyped players in the history of Ohio State. He was a 5-star cornerback, wide receiver, safety, could play played quarterback at Glenville. He was kind of the first guy ever from Glenville. And then obviously Dante was in the same class, and Dante didn't play as a freshman. Soup played as a freshman at Glenville and went to the playoffs as a freshman quarterback, which 99 that was unheard of. But I remember we got to an all-star game. We got to the North-South game, which is a big all-star game for high school football. And I'm like, okay, I get to see the Soup kid because I've never seen him play before. And, back then there wasn't Huddle and there weren't YouTube highlights. And so you literally have no idea if anyone's good or not unless you saw him at camp. And I was with David Patterson. David Patterson was really good. I mean, he was the best player on the team. And then Soup was they put him at corner, and I'm thinking he's going to be like Deion Sanders. And he got absolutely torched. There's a kid named Ryan Robinson who went to Miami of Ohio who just barbecued him all day. I'm talking about bombs, ran past him. Tony Gonzalez, who is one of my really good friends, he was crushing him too. He couldn't touch the kid. So those 2 receivers just absolutely destroyed Soup. Soup looked like me trying to play corner. And it was weird because I was like, isn't this a 5-star? We have when you're in a regional high school and you have a 5-star guy on your team, well, well, this guy's going to carry us. This guy's going to be that dude. And man, we got out there, man, and he was not that dude. It was bad. And then it got so bad during the first practice that he literally went over to the golf cart and took his cleats off. I'll never forget this. And I'm sitting there and I'm like, why is he practicing? Like, he didn't get hurt. I mean, he wasn't like limping. He didn't fake an injury. He went over to the golf cart and took his cleats off. And then that night he caught a Greyhound bus home to Cleveland. And I was like, did that really just happen? Like, this is a guy who's supposed to be our best player. He's a 5-star. He's a top 10 player in the country. And he was so bad the first day that he literally took a Greyhound bus home to Cleveland that night. And that was the craziest thing ever. And again, that's the whole moral of that story is that, again, I think the evaluations are a little bit better now just because there's so much film and there's so many more opportunities and there's 7-on-7 and you can see these kids like 10,000 times now as opposed to previously where it's like, okay, you get to watch their high school games and maybe an Ohio State camp or whatever. But yeah, I always have like that note of skepticism with every kid until they prove they can play at Ohio State. Because like when you get to Ohio State, man, I mean, you're going against dogs. And I mean, if you're not ready to go, man, that confidence could take a whooping in a hurry. So, I don't know. I share that story because like Soup again was like one of the most hyped guys, 5-star, all world, whatever. And you got to remember, like in that secondary, his senior year, they had Soup, Darius Hiley, they had Dante Whitner, and they had Ted Ginn Jr. So they had 2 first-round picks and Soup. And Soup was the one that everyone said was the best one. So again, it was just one of those weird deals. Nevada, do you remember Soup Hiley?
I do. I mean, come on, Superman Hiley. He was like going to be the next big thing, or the first big thing coming out of that program. And yeah, no, it's just you just never know. That's why whenever I see commits, I said a long time ago, after Pryor, Terrell, I just if we get them, great. If we don't get them, it's fine. Ohio State will persevere and kind of move on because. You just never know who the big star is going to be out of the class. I've stopped trying to pick because I'm always wrong on the guys because guys always come from deep in the class. Last player to add it. I mean, Troy Smith was the last player added to that class.
Yeah,
Troy Smith was returning kickoffs his freshman year at Ohio State, and he ends up in the Ring of Honor. So it's like, like go figure that one. So I'm excited about every commit because you never know.
Yeah, and like, one of our last commits was Marcel Frost. And Marcel Frost is a guy that had a lot of ability. And if he didn't, smoke his way out of Ohio State, he would have been an NFL guy all day. I mean, he was a freaky athlete, freaky good defensive end. They moved him to tight end, and I thought he was going to have a really nice career, and he couldn't help himself. And that's what some of these guys do. And again, I'm not badgering Marcel. I thought Marcel, he was one of my buddies, and we played really well together. Like I liked blocking with him because he was a really physical player. But sometimes like guys just they trip over their own feet. Like Luis Arizar is the same way. Luis could have done whatever he wanted in life, and he screwed up. And that's what a lot of these guys eventually kind of do. Well, I think wrap this thing up, Nevada. Any final thoughts? Again, we have the portal stuff. We talked about the D tackle. I don't think Larry Johnson's going to get replaced. I think he's going to be here for another year. That's a great point. AJ Hawk was one of the last guys in his class. AJ was awesome. Bill Conley thought he was going to be a backup fullback, which is hilarious. And our guy said, no, he's a linebacker. And I guess my guy was right. Any final thoughts, Nevada?
Nah, just like I said, big day for Parker Fleming, big day for Keenan Bailey, big day for everybody on the OSU. Just $2.3 million in bonus money spread out through the coaching staff today for making the Cotton Bowl. So it's a good time to be a coach at Ohio State. It's better to be a coach that's in favor with Ryan Day, and the amount of money that's being spread out around there is just wild, man. It's just wild. I mean, we're already talking about Parker making $500,000 a year, and it's like, but that doesn't include his bonus money that he makes on top of that.
Of course not.
I mean, what a gig, man! God bless America in 2023, man.
Yeah, God bless college football coaching. So you wonder why people get upset? That's why. Appreciate you guys as always tuning in, kicking with us again. The super chats are all going to pay it forward up until Christmas on the 25th. So appreciate you guys. Thank you to all of our military crew you guys are helping all around the world. Thank you guys, as always, for supporting the channel. If you enjoy this content, please leave us a like, click subscribe, also click that little alert bell. If you love the show, BuckeyeScoop.com, it needs to be your new home. It's the #1 fan experience for Ohio State football fans. It's a great Christmas gift. I'm on it all day, every day. It's an absolute blast. So if you guys would like to enjoy this type of experience 24 hours a day, all access, join BuckeyeScoop.com. We would love to have you in our family. That being said, as always, thank you so much, Buckeye Nation, and thank you, Scoop family. I'm going to talk to you guys tomorrow. Go Bucks.